If you are wondering why this video and the rest is completely minimalistic, you are the exact person who needs to keep watching. This isn't about Flash, it's about the 17. In the spring of 2020, the world did something it had never done before. It ground to a complete halt. The noise stopped. For most people, that isolation was a prison of fear and endless scrolling. But for those of us watching the financial monitors, something else was happening. A fracture appeared in the data that would define the next decade of human wealth. Most economic systems fail or succeed as a whole, but this was different. This wasn't an accident, it was a sorting mechanism by design. Do you know which side of the divergence your life is currently built on? To understand where the economy is going, you have to understand how we got here. Before 2020, a lot of people could hide in the middle of the pack. The economy was a rising tide and it generally lifted all boats. But when the crisis hit, Wall Street began tracking a phenomenon that looked like a fork in the road. Economists called it the K shaped recovery. Look at the chart. One arm of the K pointed sharply upward, the other arm pointed straight down into the dirt. The media treated this like a tragedy of circumstance, but if you look closely at the data, you realize that crises don't create new behaviors, they accelerate the ones that are already there. The K shape didn't break the economy, it just exposed who was actually prepared and who was just making noise. Ask yourself, when the friction hits your industry, are your current habits built to adapt for 2026, or are you holding on to a legacy strategy hoping the world goes back to normal? Let's break down the anatomy of this divergence. The lower arm of the K is crowded, it is loud. This is where you find the displacement. The people sliding down this line are tethered to outdated labor, emotional reactivity, and a resistance to logic. They are waiting for someone else, a politician, a boss, or the market, to save them. They consume information, but they don't convert it into action. Now look at the upper arm. This line represents high velocity growth. The people on this trajectory didn't survive the chaos by accident. They thrived because they leverage automated systems, disciplined execution, and logic based decision making. When the world paused, the people on the upper arm used the silence to pivot. This K shape is no longer just a financial chart from a few years ago. It is the permanent operating system of our modern reality. The middle class, that horizontal line we used to rely on, is disappearing into the gap. You are either engineering your life to leverage the upper arm or you are being slowly pulled into the lower arm by default. We are building a small circle here. This channel is a gated community for the few who see the great divergence for what it is and refuse to be dragged to the bottom. If this logic resonates with you and you are ready to audit your own trajectory, leave a comment with the word pivot below so I know exactly who is paying attention. Your task in the on deck circle is simple. Look at the last 90 days of your professional life. Identify one area where your decision making was driven by emotional noise rather than clinical logic. Acknowledge it and figure out what systemic change you need to make to point that trajectory upward. Access to the logic is yours. Use it. The information provided in this video is for educational and logical purposes only. It does not constitute specific investment, legal, or tax advice. No mention of a specific security, strategy, or indicator is a recommendation to buy or sell. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Navigate your own trajectory.